Welcome to Season 3 of Voices of the Goddess podcast, where we empower, inspire, and uplift women to be the goddesses they truly are. I'm your co-host, Julietta, the magical PT, owner and founder of Body and Soul PT, as well as Soul Candy, intuitive, handmade, and one-of-a-kind jewelry and artwork. I support people in finding the magic within themselves, creating balance in their body and soul.
And I'm your other co-host, Graciela, published, award-winning, and professionally certified portrait photographer specializing in boudoir and personal branding. I create portraits of who you are and not just what you look like so that you can become who you've always been. Join us each week as we sit down for a heart-to-heart chat, sharing stories and insights with listeners across the globe. Laughter and tears alike abound as we access ancient wisdom in modern times through unique and exciting storytelling, supporting you on your life's journey. Welcome to the circle and enjoy the show.
Hello, everybody. I scared myself. That was hilarious.
Welcome, everyone. That's going to sound really great on the podcast. The first 3 seconds of that screaming. That's good. It's great.
Well, it's on YouTube, but hopefully our editor will fix that for me.
I don't know. I kind of like the reality of it. You know, I was telling you about that Stutz movie the other day, and part of it, in the middle of it, Jonas Hill, he has this moment of brutal honesty. And he's like, you know, this movie is actually being filmed over the course of 2 years. And right now, and he goes like this and he pulls off a wig and he's like, I'm wearing a wig to make it look like the last time I filmed this, but this is not who I am right now. And why am I faking all of this? And he just like gets into this whole like thing where he's like, what's real and what's not and what's reality. And I don't know, it's kind of just really interesting, which made me think you're going to laugh. I was driving around Fort Lauderdale the other day and there was a bus bench and it was an advertisement for a hair salon. And their motto, oh my God, their motto was just cut it. And I was like, oh, that was like a mortal wound. I was like, oh my God, I will never go there. Like ever, ever, ever. You know, my hair is down to my waist. Like it is a big part of who I am as a human being. I'm like Samson and Delilah. Like I need my hair. And I was just like floored that there was this bus bench that said, just cut it, you know? I don't know. That was a bit alarming for me.
Well, I think you know this, but probably not all of our audience does. Both my mom and my grandmother were hairdressers.
Oh, interesting.
And as a little girl, when the question would come, what are you going to be when you grow up? I was going to be a hairdresser, just like my mom and my grandma. And so to me, like that whole world is just very fascinating since I grew up in it. And for me, like, especially in my teenage years, I think I drove my mom absolutely bonkers because like every 2 weeks I'd be like, okay, mom, I want my hair like this now. Okay, can we do this one now? I mean, I was like she's like, I just cut your hair. Like, can't you just like keep it like that for a while? But no, mom, I want it like this now. I mean, I was constantly changing my hair and my hair was never long because I was always cutting it. Like it couldn't get long. But every length, short, long, you know, I had the whole tail thing. I had asymmetrical, like all of it.
Wow.
And the thing is like, I watch other women like stress out about their hair and like have total breakdowns. And I've like lived in the world like, you don't like it, who cares? It grows back, you know? Like,
oh my gosh. See, that's totally opposite how I was raised. Like hair was such a big part of who you are. Like my mom gave me the bowl cut when I was about 6. Then I'll never forget in 2nd grade, like this is imprinted in my mind. It was the Farrah Fawcett years and I wanted my hair feathered. And I think I managed to keep it feathered for one school picture, but then my hair had absolutely no wave or anything to it. So it was cut in layers, but it would just fall straight flat, you know? So it was not the look. And then, I don't know, like in 4th grade, I let all my hair grow all one length. And I swear to God, I'm 48 years old. And I mean, I've had layers, I've had balayage. Now you see I'm letting my gray grow, you know, you can still see a little bit of the brown peeking through there, but I'm just a long hair person. Now, I will tell you, I have fantasized about having a pixie cut. I don't think it would look good on me. Maybe in my next life, my next iteration, I'll be pixie cut girl. But yeah, I don't know. It's really interesting.
I have to talk, since we're talking about hair, I have to talk about one other thing. I did not learn this on TikTok, but I did like read it on the internet. So maybe it's true, maybe it's not true. I don't know, but it's fascinating to me. I like the story, so I'm going to choose to believe it. Okay. But back in who knows which war, whatever, the U.S. Army was recruiting Native Americans for their psychic abilities.
Yes.
But the crazy thing was like they joined the army, they made them shave their beautiful long hair, and they lost their psychic abilities because in their culture, your hair is like the antenna that like receives that information. You're nodding your head. Like, have you heard the story as well?
Yes, I've absolutely heard of this. And I think and like you said, whether you choose to believe that your hair is the antenna or not, right? Like it's whatever you believe is your perception, is your reality, right? And so sure. I do think, right, it's like I brought up Samson and Delilah, you know what I mean? Like, you cut his hair and all of a sudden he wasn't the guy anymore, like it absolutely makes total sense. Absolutely. Plus, I do think your hair is an extension of your body, right? Like I know it's dead, quote unquote, but I don't know. My hair is very much alive, girlfriend. I'm telling you right now.
Well, and then there's like for those who can't see, I have some purple hair here, and it's been all different shades and whatnot of purple,
and pink.
Probably like 5 or 6 years now.
Yeah.
And it's been amazing to me how many women have come up to me and said, I wish I could do that with my hair. I wish. Yeah. I'm like, just go to the damn hair salon and let them put purple in it. Like, what is the big deal? And then women will say, my husband would divorce me if I did that. I'm like, if your husband's going to divorce you because you make your hair purple, I think you have bigger issues. Or my boss is going to fire me if I dye my hair purple. I'm like, maybe you want to get fired if your boss isn't going to let you dye your hair purple, and like, I feel at this stage in the game, like if it's going to make you happy, purple hair makes me happy, I'm going to make it purple. Like, and you all just get to live with it, and you can like it or you cannot like it. And it doesn't matter to me.
And it's beautiful. And, like when people see me with my gray, especially like my mom's generation, they're all like, oh, why are you letting yourself go? And I'm like, man, it's not that I'm letting myself go. It's that I enjoy it. I like it. I like the way that it looks. And as of yet, it has not affected my ability to love my family, earn money, be happy, travel, do all the things I want to do. Right. Like,
amen.
I will tell you what,
your hair is stunning. I love it.
Thank you. Well, today's like a tight bun day. I put my bun so tight, I'm pretty sure I gave myself a little facelift here by accident.
Really? I thought you had some work done. I was going to ask you off camera.
Yeah, no, it's just hairspray and an enormous amount of tight hair ties in there. It kind of hurts a little bit, I'm not going to lie, but whatever. It looks good enough for now. But I'm going to share one hair quote, which I absolutely love. I know you're thinking hair quote. Who has hair quotes? I have hair quotes. Coco Chanel said, a woman who cuts her hair is about to change her life. And I absolutely love it, because when you're ready to like step into your next self, level up, whatever it is, I don't care what anybody says, you go and you do something with your hair. Like maybe it's dyeing it purple, maybe it's shaving it bald, maybe it's, just a trim. I don't know, but it is absolutely, I think, a part of who we are, one way or the other, having it, not having it, whatever. It's a thing. It's got a life of its own.
Awesome. Yeah. All right. You and I can talk forever about nothing. So we need to get the show rolling, and we're going to bring on our next guest.
Here we go.
Hello, Nicole.
Hi.
Welcome.
As I'm fluffing my hair from all the energy of hair talk here.
There you go. Gorgeous.
Perfect.
Thank you.
So would you please introduce yourself to our audience? Tell them a little bit about who you are and the magic that you do.
Oh, thanks. Yes. So my name's Nicole Waters. I am a holistic functional medicine practitioner. I'm also a spiritual coach, spiritual life coach, and a multidimensional energy practitioner. So basically, I combine all that into the functional medicine sphere for people to find out what's actually going on at a root level with their health. I
think a lot of us do know, because functional medicine, that word is more out there in the world, but I think there's still a lot of people that don't really understand what functional medicine is. Maybe you could explain.
Yeah. So functional medicine is really getting to the root cause of what's going on in the body, not just body, but emotionally, body, mind, spirit. It's the why you are having the challenges you're having coming up. So we uncover that why. I uncover that sort of why, so that, there's so many people out there that they can go to the physician, like a conventional medicine physician, and they can get their labs and someone can say, looks good. And they feel it's not good. Like they know something's off, or, they deep in their bones, they're like, doesn't make sense. This still isn't regulated and this isn't. Or, there's so many people wanting to go the alternative route now. They're just wanting to get back into the way of the earth, and the herbs, and doing things in a more natural way, without, all the side effects that can come regarding medications and things like that. So really, I say that it's some people just go that one route, but it can be a beautiful marriage of the two, because conventional medicine isn't really able to go into all of that other diet, lifestyle, alternative like depth, specifically even more so the emotions, right? We know emotions and the spiritual play a huge role.
That's beautiful. I'm going to take umbrage, and yes, I say umbrage, with our use of the words conventional and alternative. It just gets my goat, because what we say is conventional is actually pretty new. That is new age, right? Because for thousands and thousands of years, what is considered alternative medicine was conventional. It was the standard, right? And so I don't know how we can have like thousands of years of a certain practice, and then really quick we created this practice and it somehow negated everything else, right? And now it's like, to get back here, it's like there's this climbing and this clawing, and but I love what you said about there being a marriage of the two, right? Ways that all of these things can coexist at the same time, right? Like I'm all for advancements, and that sort of a thing, but also let's not leave the past in the past. Like it, we used it for a reason, right?
Of course. And there's so much ancient wisdom there, so much ancient wisdom, which I think more and more of us, women, men and women carry this because we both have the divine masculine, divine feminine within us. But to start to bring that up, because, it is powerful, powerful medicine. And we have to, when we just, don't look at the emotional aspect, we are not going to get to the root of what's going on, because emotions are what drive that physical to show up in that energy body at the end. The physical is the most dense part of the energy body, and the body goes out into many dimensions. So, that's something even people think, oh, well, maybe I have this much of an aura or this, or I have a little energy here, but we're quite vast. So, when it shows up physically, then there's a whole long line of where it showed up in the mental body, the emotional, spiritual body.
This would be a great point for you to share one of your success stories. I'd love for our audience to hear just, like what are, without divulging too much, because I know we have patients and things like that, but what's one of your success stories that kind of keeps you motivated to do what you do?
Yeah, I have a great one to share. I'll give you an idea. I had a man who was he had severe IBS, right? So his life revolved around finding out if anywhere he traveled or what his day consists of, where the nearest bathroom was. So he would go to the bathroom like 7 times a day, like have, diarrhea or something, running to the bathroom. Yeah. So can you imagine like his quality of life of just like, okay, am I going to cramp? Am I going to make it? Can I get on this plane? Am I, you know what I mean? How am I going to route this all out? That's enough to make you crazy in itself, right? Like just, the hyper anxiety from it. And once when we started working through the integrative labs, or like looking at, okay, here's your labs, and actually starting to go into a little bit deeper what they mean from a functional aspect, because it's in a whole nother aspect conventionally. They look at it and then they say, oh, this is the problem. But we tie the emotion to the lab, to what maybe they're feeling like, okay, if it's stomach stuff, what aren't you digesting? What have you held in? Or what can't you like nourish your body or assimilate that you're constantly in that state, moving to that? We start to add that emotional piece, and then the spiritual work. I do a lot with the vagus nerve, with breathing with people. I do Reiki. I start to teach them how to, calm that fight or flight, that parasympathetic, activate that. And it was really interesting because here was this man who was going to the bathroom, like every day. His whole life was just so stressful that when we started really doing that energetic aspect and emotional aspect and putting these pieces in place, he had like all of a sudden this huge purge, and then his body regulated. He's back to going to the bathroom twice a day.
Amazing.
It, of course, came over time, but it was really like, of course, he started to freak out. I don't know, that resistance of, what's going on now? Something went awry. And this is where that coaching comes in. And you're really able to be like, stick with me. I've done this before. This is part of this process, right? That ebb and flow, getting goosebumps from it because it's just how beautiful this process is. And then, all of a sudden this huge purging of all this just, like generational programming, different things of childhood that he had been taught, or the way he assimilated emotions and how his thought process, created that imbalance within the body, moved out so that the body could come back to a balance.
And it's all about creating balance.
It is. It's all about balance. It's all about balance. And, this is one example, but there's so many. And I think that's why, even now when I've been really, really instructed, like through my higher self and my guides, the scan, when I work with a new client, scan their energy body first. And I find like, especially with women, we see a lot of stuff coming up. There's all different areas, but a lot like within that womb area and, different ways. And of course, the gut is everything. It regulates, our serotonin, how good we feel. And so if the gut's messed up, there's going to be things going on with the brain too. So just kind of starting to get an idea of what's actually going together and then putting those pieces of the puzzle together to create, this okay, I have a pretty good idea what this puzzle's looking like and where these places need some attention and where we're going to go for a plan of action.
Nice work. So our show is all about women empowering women and lifting each other up. So I'm curious to know, what is one piece of advice that you got from a woman that had an impact on your life?
The biggest thing that a mentor friend said to me that changed my whole life was watch the way you speak to yourself. And that self-talk changed everything for me. When I started to realize what I was saying, and then even going deeper to realize what I was thinking, and then how the body showed it to me, right? Like pain and anxiety, right? That sort of thing. And starting to put that mind-body connection together and then doing affirmations and different things to start to atrophy those old pathways and saying, nope, not going to come along with me this time. That might have been that story, but I choose a different story. That was my biggest game changer. I think that we can alchemize ourselves so much by being mindful of our thoughts.
You're absolutely right. As you were talking earlier about things being stored in the body, I was remembering just my own childhood. And I've shared this a couple of times on the show. When I was a kid, my dad was a raging alcoholic, and no coincidence, I had horrible stomach pains. Like I thought I had IBS, And then when I was 14, my parents got divorced and my stomach aches lessened by like 75%. Like it was absolutely amazing. And then years later, when I got divorced, my stomach aches went away completely.
Isn't that something, right? It's just like the body being free. The inner child was free.
Absolutely.
And it was just like this huge relief. And gosh, I so get it. I don't step into this field because I, was one without health issues. That's usually what catapults you, right? You can't find the answer. You're searching and you're on this path. And then it's literally like the universe saying, like, if you really want to know, you have to go in. You have to like learn it all so that you can be that, and bring it forth into the world. And so I understand it. We all come from dysfunction.
Yeah.
We all do. Even when people don't want to admit it, I'm like, there's dysfunction there because we're here to grow, right? We're here to grow beyond it.
Yeah. Even that, even the word dysfunction, and even the word trauma, I think I want to start neutralizing these terms, because to say that something is wrong implicates that there's a right way. And when we say everyone has trauma, what if we just say everyone has experiences that leave an impact on us, like not, you know what I mean? Because
True, with the
feeling
labels.
like, right. Like if I say, oh, I grew up with a certain trauma, does that mean that there are people that didn't grow up with trauma, that like every single day and every single moment of their whole entire existence was perfect? There's no such thing. So why are we even labeling things in this way, right?
I agree.
You know?
I think labeling is a huge thing, right? I mean, look at what happens with children with labeling of things when everyone is like uniquely perfect in their own way. And then they just find it as long as they're supported and they're in a safe environment to like explore that. So I love that. It's always about like refining, right? Even what we say, and then we start to refine a little bit more and be like, and they really are, because when it all boils down to it, no matter we pick the path, we come in. And the end result is how much you decide to love yourself and forgive and be, what you've created to be. But it does take a while sometimes to get there. And some people choose not to go there. But, that's what I'm here for. And I think that also I feel like, women, having more and more safe spaces for women to completely like really open up in these spaces where they felt like, okay, I really can't use my voice, or how do I trust this? And really weaving that is beautiful. And it's such an honor and privilege to be a part of that, because, we all have work to do, deep work here.
Yeah. And it's so multifaceted, right? Like we learn and come together as a village. We learn and come together as women. I am one of those people that I always felt that if I could I felt that every book held a secret, right? Now I'm going to ask you our book question in a second here, but I always felt that if I could just crack open a book and turn to the one page with the one sentence, that would change my life, and honestly, it's worked out pretty well for me.
Oh, wonderful.
I love books. Like it has truly, like sometimes you just get, like the one piece of advice you got from a woman, right? Same thing.
Right.
And I know you have a million books to choose from, but is there a nugget? Is there a book that you would recommend to our audience?
Well, I don't read too many books outside of spiritual books. We'll just put it that way. It was just kind of one of my things that I have 2 kids at home and I'm fairly busy. And so, the biggest book that ever made a dent, I would say, and it goes along with some of the self-talk, was Louise Hay, How to Heal Your Body. That was my first real book that was like giving me some answers as far as, okay, what's showing up, in a lot of ways. And now there's something tied to it. Now, not that every statement was exactly what went on in my body, but it was such a nice blueprint from another woman who had actually, like, her story is right. She cured her cancer through her self-talk, by changing all of that, by self-love. And so I feel like it's a very empowering tool, especially when we have life throwing at us at different ways, or sometimes some people just feel like they're so in the midst of too much overwhelm, right? To be able to say, you know what, here's someone that, really like changed all their course. It's a very empowering book. So I tend to lean to something like that. And, I also, my other one tied for it is there's this book. And I just don't read through all books. I'm one of those that like goes through some of it.
You're a grazer. You like to graze through the books.
Yeah, I'm a grazer. I am. I'm a grazer. And I have to tell you, the only other book that I probably have finished cover to cover is there is a book called Left to Tell. And it was about the Rwandan genocide. And it was a woman who actually, I think it went through Wayne Dyer, but he like was talking about this book that she actually does step by step, like what happened with this genocide and how she was like trapped in her bathroom for so long and like hiding. And she went through, it was just such a gripper. And she actually now like works for United Nations. She learned English and everything in her so that she had this like story to bring out. But it was just, I read it from cover to front to back. I was so gripped. And I feel like it was very empowering for me to read it because, when we have things that challenge us in our lives, and some of us have just like one right after another, whether you call it karma or whatever you want to say, and you can read something like this of someone who is so strong amidst, these external circumstances. It really gives you a lot of strength. It gives you a lot of that. If they can do it, that you can do it too. And really I think that's why sometimes some of these pieces stick out in your mind. Like you just resonate with them because they touch you at such a deep level.
Yeah, that also, we were talking on an earlier episode about, what's going on in Iran with the women right now. And I'm sure there are stories that are going to come out of this that, those of us living here in the US, we can't even imagine what they're going through and then what it takes to stand up to that. And
the immense strength, right? Yeah. And so it's amazing how much we have within ourselves. And then when we think we don't have it, that we can get more and that we can keep growing. And then to see all around us, examples that stretch even further beyond our mind of what we even feel like is possible. But yes, immense strength, courage.
We can do hard things and we can do really hard things.
We can do it all. We can, because and I think that that's the other thing, we birth, we're creators, we're alchemists. And so it's so important to be able to take those times to savor those nuggets and remember that we can, no matter how uncomfortable it is, that we can move through it and that there's supportive communities around us. And like just this podcast, and other women who have walked in these shoes and that have been through, different things, and the universe will line you up with the right people.
Absolutely.
I think like the biggest survival skill truly is because, some of that sounds like really, really hard, right? Like I could never survive this. Or I could never do that. Or I could never get divorced. Or I could never be on my own. Or I could never move to another country, right? Or anything like that. But I think it's one ingredient, and that's hope. I think if you hang on to hope, you really can do anything.
You really can. And, your comment jogged my memory because I had a big, big book. There was another book, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. That was one of my first books that allowed me to move. I was in a bad marriage, and it was that book that gave me the step to do it. So I always had felt like, okay, yeah, if I'm feeling some fear, that there's something behind it, because fear can be good in a way, right? It can propel us. It's just if we're staying it for too long or letting it overtake our life, no balance, right, Julietta? If it doesn't create balance. So there is, and it's remembering that we have that. Our ancestors have that. Right? Like that have gone through all these, or the different races have this, like Native Americans we were talking about, like just the tenacity in that race, and, calling that in to embrace that and bringing it to back us so that we can walk in that way.
Yeah. Well, that really leads into our next question, because we take risks along the way and do things that may have felt fearful or difficult or hard. And so what is one thing that you've done in your life that you'll never regret?
So the one thing in my life that I will never regret is choosing me first. That I put myself first. It took me a while. I wasn't always, there was times where I was a doormat. I got everything sucked out of me. I remember that many years ago. I was at one of these fun girl get-togethers, and it was a reading. And the psychic woman's like, yeah, and you are you're like a doormat to others. She said something like this to me. This was years ago, 20 years, right? And I was like, and then I just had to start investigating, right? It really triggered me. But, it took me a while, but it was really that, giving myself the medicine first, because I'm not good for anyone else unless I am taking care of myself. And that is a aspect of love, right? Our self-love, that we choose ourselves, that we are worthy, that I am worthy to, put myself first and do the self-care and do everything that is needed for me to be able to show up in this world. So it's been my sacred center, really putting that up, choosing myself first.
That's amazing. And it takes doing it continuously, right? It's a practice. It's a continuous practice.
It is. It's a continuous practice. And it does happen, especially when life throws it for you and you have kids and everyone's vying for your time and different things. But you just, you feel it when you don't have it. When you just decide not to, you start noticing you're more irritable or something's not right. It's the same thing that happens to me when I don't get outside. If I spend a whole day and I don't get outside to be under all this, then I can tell that I'm off. So I have several self-care tools I must have. I just bring them all in, but I know myself and I know what makes it work for me so that I'm able to be, loving to myself and honoring and respecting myself, but also to be of service out in the world.
Some days are the days where you're like, oh, one little bit of self-care will do it. I feel great. And the next time you're like with your big basket of self-care, you're like, I got 27 things I got to do today. And they all are going to center around me right now.
Yes, right. I get it.
The other day I had one of those like super crazy busy days. And I was like, okay, I got 4 minutes before my next client shows up. And I leaned back on one of my couches here at the studio and I just stared at the ceiling and I envisioned a particular, soothing scene for me. And sure enough, 4 minutes later, knock, knock, my client was here. And I was like, well, that was a nice vacation. Like that was great. Like I just needed 4 minutes of waterfalls and forests and then I'm good to go. I'm good to go.
The quick pick me up. Right? Like it just, whatever you intend. I mean, and it's so beautiful, right? Like when all of a sudden something falls off just to make room for you to have that space. Like I love that about the way life works with that. When we just aren't in resistance, we just can flow and then it just opens and you're like, oh, well, why is that so open? And then you're like, oh, now I know why.
We're almost to the end of our show. I want to ask you one last question, my favorite question. If you'd share with us just to give our listeners something nice to hold on to until our next episode, what is your sweetest and most delicious memory?
So I'm a mom. And so moms come up with, the best memories of things. But I really believe that it's like it's really, really about like holding my kids for the first time in my arms. That was the best memories I've had. I had both of my children naturally, so they were very different. One was at a birth center, one was at home. And so there was a lot of work involved, a lot of, good, powerful self-talk, a lot of ohms for the last one, a lot of ohms, because he was flipped and he came out sunny side up. But it was like that, like unconditional love and being able to feel like very empowered and very strong that I was able to do that. Like so many wise women have done it before and just hold this beautiful soul in my arms that like just so much unconditional love there. So that would be my sweetest. I mean, I have to always say like the birth of my children was first. And then I would say my second thing always was that I always had beautiful memories going in a sweat lodge. I've done sweat lodges before, and those are like tied up there because it's such an honoring space where you can just like give everything, where I really felt like so heard and so like vulnerable, like so feminine, but also so supportive and listened to. And it's really amazing that happens there, like in the darkness with the rawness of nature. But yeah, I love that.
Nice.
Yeah. I know. Good stuff.
That was delicious.
Thank you. Yeah.
So thank you so much for showing up today, Nicole, and sharing all of that with us. And you got anything else, Graciela?
That's it. You know me. You got to stop me while we're at it, when you can.
Cut her off.
Cut it off. I love it. Thank you, Nicole, so much for being here. I appreciate it. Our listeners appreciate you. Know and trust that your words are literally going all around the world as we speak right now. So I appreciate you.
Oh, thank you both for having me. I'm so thankful to have met both of you and connected the way we have, and just spreading this kind of information out for anyone that it resonates with, and so that they're able to feel supported and empowered and loved, and expanding themselves to their fullest authentic self. That's really what it's all about, right? So thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you, Nicole. All right, listeners, love you much. We'll see you on the next one. Thank you, dear ones, for joining us today. Make sure you check out the show notes for details on how to get in touch with either Julietta, Graciela, or today's special guest. Don't forget to subscribe, review, like, and share.
Big love and gratitude for all of you May the path before you be ever illuminated by your fellow goddesses. Shine bright and have a magical day.